Hello, everyone. In Nigeria, we have a way of all the time, wasting our resources. Cost of governance is extremely high. And you have people who get into office and all they do is to think about how they're going to enrich themselves, how they're going to spend money on themselves, how they're going to make their life super easy, while at the detriment of the people, at the detriment of citizens who are suffering. What Mr. Peter Obi said here is so apt and just captures the essence of all the things. And there are a lot of people who are always like, oh, leave these things, forget about this thing, don't talk about this thing shouldn't be focused on. These things must be focused on. These are the things that at the end of the day, they come together and they accumulate into one big problem for everyone, one big problem for the suffering we are going through, one big problem for the insecurity we have in our country, one big problem for the unemployment we have in our country, one big problem for the lack of development we have in our country, one big problem for the lack of 24/7 electricity, for the lack of good quality education in our public schools, for the lack of good roads, and for the lack of great medical services. These things always have a problem for us, always have caused problems for us, and then people will just keep saying, oh, let's move on from it. No, we can't move on from them. We must address this issue. Mr. Peter Obi here took on the fact that house was built for vice president's residence, while citizens, Nigeria is a country that has over 20 million citizens who don't have houses, decent houses that they're going to live in. And then you have the government wasting money in such a moment. We are in the period of austerity. We are in the period of a lot of hardship. We are in the period of there's no money in the country, there is nothing. And then yet we have a situation whereby the government, this illegitimate government that we have, is wasting money on things that it's not supposed to waste money on. I'll call on you. Just take a listen. Just watch and listen to what Mr. Peter Obi said.
Nigeria today is a country with the highest amount of people without homes. Over 24 million. Yet, you're spending 20-something billion to build a house for one person. Mr. Just, are you saying that a vice president of Nigeria cannot live in a 4-bedroom house? You live in the UK. 10 Downing Street is 3 rooms. That is an economy that is almost 10 times our economy today. And the prime minister lives in 3 rooms. So that's where you start. You start by living like somebody who is coming through difficulty, who is facing difficulty, who wants to change things. That's how we do it. You don't engage in what we've been doing, buying vehicles, partying and everything, as if things are normal. When you say there's difficulty, you need to deal with the issue of cutting the cost of governance. That's where you start. So you need to deal with the issue of massive corruption. That is showing that I am now, okay, things are bad. Just have served the system. Where I came in and found that things are bad. And we start by cutting the cost of governance.
So are those...
Yes. You heard it all. That is it. And we cannot just continue to be a country where we watch people, just spend of our monies anyhow, and then we do nothing about it, and we continue to allow it. Just to digress a little bit, in the last few days, I've seen people who have been calling on supporters of Mr. Peter, be calling them all sorts of names. And things like, oh, if you like, don't build bridges. You will, your principal will not win election again, or stuff like that, or whatever. And I'm like, really? You think this is about winning election? No, this is about Nigeria, having a chance at development. That's what it is all about. Mr. Peter Obi is not desperate to be president. He has said it repeatedly, and we're not desperate that we must win election. All we're interested in is for Nigeria to get, competence, character, capacity in the helm of leadership, and for that to translate into dividends for democracy. So if people think that, oh, this is something about Mr. Peter Obi, or you're going to go after Mr. Peter Obi, you will not vote for him because of obedience, has done this and done that. Hey, the cost of tomato, like I asked in a tweet that I did, is there anybody who buys tomato at a cheaper rate? Is there anybody who buys bread at a cheaper rate? Is there anybody who is immune from the killings that are going on, is exempted from the killings that are going on just because they voted someone or something? We are all in deep SHIT in Nigeria, and if you think that this is some joke that you're just going to be getting away with it, buckle yourself up. There's a whole lot more out there, and this is about all of us, sitting down here and suffering. And people think they're going to be childish with their votes, or going to be vindictive with their vote. Please feel free. This suffering goes after everybody. And one of the things I've always said to us about Nigeria is the fact that every one of us, we are all victims waiting to happen. Being a victim in Nigeria is no longer a matter of if you will be a victim, but when will you be, when it will be your turn to be that victim. It's Turn by Turn Nigerian Limited, and you're not doing anybody a favor. So all this, oh, Mr. Peter Obi will never be president, oh, you will not vote, please. The suffering is there, and it's like you saying, oh, you never want to live, that suffering or whatever. But hey, it is time for us to honestly, like I will always say, begin to be invested in politics. We cannot keep staying away. You can't keep saying that, oh, politics is dirty, politics is this, politics is that. We have to go in there and claim that politics and make it the kind of thing that we want to see. We have to go in there and ensure that the right thing is being done. Nature abhors vacuum, and the moment you stay away, some people will fill it up. Nature doesn't care whether they're good people or they're bad people. It doesn't see good or bad. All it sees is occupier of spaces, and whoever wants to occupy that spaces, it will work with that places, and whatever it is they give, good, bad, ugly, that's what is going to come out. And so it is very important for every one of us to begin to do the needful. You did hear what Mr. Peter Obi said there. There is no reason why we should be spending 20-something billion on accommodation for one person, where there are 20 million people, over 20 million people who are in need of accommodation. And in everything that we do, cost of governance must be reduced. We cannot be spending money that we do not have unnecessarily on things we do not need, and on processes we do not need, just to be able to keep a few people in position while the generality of people continue to suffer. So it is in our own interest to ensure that we are also doing what we want to do. Remember what Dr. Obi Ezekwesili would always say: governance is of two sides, the supply side and the supply and the demand side. Those who vote people are supposed to make demand, and the question is, are you making the demand you're making? And if you do not make demand, the people who supply will supply what is most easier for them, and it's easier to supply bad governance than it is to supply good governance. So make your demands and expect the supply of what you demand for. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.